Hello friends, for today's video I'm going to be tier ranking episodes from the third season of Avatar: The Last Airbender. Something that was a little bit different about this season than the previous seasons is that this one had more arcs that took place over the course of multiple episodes, and usually when that happens, I will rank the episodes individually, but this time around I decided the Day of the Black Sun to kind of just consider that as one thing, and then same for the Boiling Rock. However, because Sozin's Comet was pretty much like 4 episodes in one, I am breaking that one up, which gives us one less episode actually than the previous 2 seasons. So instead of there being 20, there will be 19. And normally when I've been doing this, I force myself to put at least a certain amount in the bottom tier and at least a certain amount in the top tier. And I should clarify, I cap the amount that I'm allowed to put at the top tier, and then I have to put some on the bottom, because otherwise, what's the point of having a bottom tier? I might as well just make it 4 tiers instead of 5. But because we're dealing with one less episode this time around, I'm only forcing myself to put 2 episodes in the bottom instead of 3. I, in general, found this season to maybe be the hardest one to tier rank, as I think I had fewer episodes that really stood out to me like I did with season 2. For example, season 2, I was like, what's gonna go at the top? Because it was one amazing episode after the next. So this one, though, was a little bit different in that I didn't really have those standouts. It was like so many of them I felt pretty equal toward, and then I had some that I was kind of lukewarm toward. So it was like there weren't standouts on either end as much. But as a result, that means that on any given day, I might rank these differently. I went through, because I often write things out, I think I went through 4 or 5 different iterations, we'll call them, variants of this tier ranking, because I truly could not decide. So, I might even, while I'm doing this, I might start getting indecisive and be like, do I really want to put that there? But this is, as of today, my tier ranking for season 3. And I would love to know, what is the thing that you agree with the most, and then what is the thing that you end up disagreeing with the most, as I like kind of seeing those extremes of where we line up and where we do not. I have a feeling I already know where we're not going to line up. As always, I'm going to start in the middle and then work my way to the extremes. So starting in the 3rd tier, I'm putting Ember Island players in this tier. Did I have a lot of fun with this episode? Yes. Did I think it was a really fun way to sort of recap the entirety of the show right before the big finale? Yes. Did it do a lot of things that were sort of self-aware and clever and sneaky and really stupid at the same time, but in the best of ways? Yes. However, was it the most moving of episodes, the most powerful? Was it one that really dissected the themes of this show? Not as much. So on a personal level, I kind of wanted to rank it higher just because I had so much fun with it, but I tried to save the ones for the higher tiers. I tried to have those be the ones that I think were a little bit more impactful, a little bit more important, and this one wasn't quite as much that, although it was a lot of fun. Next up, the Avatar and the Fire Lord. I'm just going to actually list the ones that I have in this tier. So we have the Avatar and the Fire Lord. We have Nightmares and Daydreams. I discovered a lot of you apparently really can't stand that episode. I think I liked it more than maybe a lot of other people, but I didn't love it. So it's not like I feel really strongly like I don't need to argue on behalf of this episode. I thought it did a good job capturing Aang's fear and the fact that there was so much pressure on him. I think it captured it really well, but I can completely understand because some of you said you skip it on rewatches. I can see why, but I did think it was a fun episode, kind of like Ember Island players, just maybe not as fun. But anyway, Nightmares and Daydreams, and then I have Sozin's Comet for the very end. So when talking about the very end, the last chunk of episodes for the entire series, I did mention that I don't think that this show's strengths lie in its conclusion. I think its strengths, as cheesy as it sounds, it's kind of all about the journey. So I don't think that the ending was going to probably be as moving to me as a lot of the work that's done in the episodes that are more within, throughout the entirety of the show, I should say. So it happened. Things wrapped up. We got a conclusion. Some things were left undone. You know, we don't know everything going on with Zuko's mother, what ends up happening with Azula. We don't really know those answers, but it was fine. I don't think that last episode had me in tears, or I didn't feel really strongly about much. I was kind of like, we've gotten to the end. And it was fine. I thought it was fine. But again, it's not bad. It's not a bad thing. I'm not saying it's bad. The Avatar and the Fire Lord, though, the reason that this one is here is while I appreciated the lore and getting to know a little bit more about Zuko's background and the way in which the previous Avatar and his ancestors, how their relationship played out, I liked getting to see all of that. I think they delivered the arc really well within a single episode. I also felt like, in a sense, some of this could have, not all of it, because obviously the relevancy of it to current day and what's happening with Zuko and Aang, I get that had to happen in season 3, but the lore aspect of it itself almost feels like it was just so hard to place anywhere, because it almost felt like a hiccup in the middle of other things. It is a turning point in a sense. I liked the episode. I think it was important. I think it feels like it could have happened in numerous places. And it also feels like an episode that I'm not saying this is literally a fact, but it almost feels like an episode you could take out. You don't really feel like you're missing out on too much, with the exception of, obviously that reveal about Zuko's ancestry, but also Zuko finally talking to Iroh a little bit nicer, because for so long up to that point he's being awful to him. Anyway, I just don't have as strong of feelings about this episode. I can feel it already. I feel myself being like, but I mean, it's pretty good too. I already can sense that I don't like that I force myself to put things in multiple tiers, and I just wish I could put everything higher. But anyway, I'm going to move on. Let's go to tier 4. Let's just get the negative ones out of the way. Sokka's Master. Didn't dislike this episode. I don't think it's bad by any means, but we have some heavy hitters in this season, and this one's just not as heavy, and it's as simple as that. The opening of Sozin's Comet was a little frustrating. The whole, where did Aang go? I don't know. Let's find the girl that tracked him before. And she's going to be really vague about, he's not anywhere, literally, at all. She says something very abstract. And I'm like, well, he still exists. He's not in the spiritual realm, and he's not dead. So he does exist. Just say you can't track him. Be honest. He's beyond your skills right now. And also there's some plot conveniency things happening with this particular portion of the last part of the show, as far as Aang just miraculously figures out a way to not have to kill Ozai. It was not my favorite. It's not my favorite. And then the runaway, I know a lot of people disagree with me. I do 100% agree that Toph reflecting about her family is incredibly sweet and important. And I do really like the conversation between Toph and Sokka. I think that part was really sweet. I did, in the batch reviews, talk about how I feel like they were really on the nose with Katara being the mom of the group. And when I said that, I wasn't referring to this conversation. If it's been a while since you've watched it, I wasn't talking about the conversation between Sokka and Toph. I meant before that, when you just see Toph and Katara going at it and being snippy with each other, and then it's kind of laid out as this insult. And then later, there is that kind of, not most of the time considered to be the most unique writing, which is when you have a character conveniently overhearing the nice stuff, and then that kind of helps us move forward. Any kind of overhearing as a form of conflict or a form of conflict resolution is not my favorite, and I do feel like this episode felt like it was sort of building off of something we had seen before with the chase in season 2, which I think is a better version of this. I do think that conversation, and I do think certain aspects of the episode were sweet, but because it's sort of building off of something familiar, I couldn't put it higher than some of the others on the list. Now going up to the second tier, which is way more in tier 2 than in tier 4. So in tier 2, Day of the Black Sun. I'm just going to go through all of these also. Day of the Black Sun, Sozin's Comet 2, and Sozin's Comet 3, as I feel like the middle chunk of Sozin's Comet was where it was awesome. That's where it was at. It was so good. The Boiling Rock, again, I kind of combined that. the Headband, the Awakening, and the Western Air Temple. So, man, so many of these were so good. Day of the Black Sun, I really considered putting higher because I thought it was bold of the show to put this in the middle of the 3rd season. You're like, wait a second, this is kind of like the big thing, and we're doing it right now? Don't we have so many more episodes left? And the fact that there's this enormous failure, you're separating Katara and Sokka from their father again. You have these characters have to come back from this immense failure and then pick themselves back up, which I think often facilitates some of the best character moments and shows how do you come back from that. And you finally see Zuko go against what he's been fed over and over again. So there's so many great things about Day of the Black Sun. Sozin's Comet, the 2nd and 3rd portions of it, just had some really fantastic action scenes. That's kind of where, I mean, that's a whole big boss battle. And I'm not saying the action scenes are the most important things. It's just that it was awesome action in part because there was so much emotional stakes as well as stakes for the safety of the entire world. So I really feel like the middle section of that whole last part was fantastic. Boiling Rock, I really enjoyed Suki in here. I liked seeing the way in which Azula finally is having Ty Lee and May kind of turn their backs on her. I really like seeing, in general, Zuko and Sokka together, but also Zuko really trying to do what he can to help and be a better person. I really enjoyed all of that. So I thought that this was a great arc. And the Awakening, the Headband, so the earlier episodes of the season, the Headband, I thought was so good. And I really loved seeing a little bit more about how the Fire Nation has built this propaganda into people from such a young age so that they're so incredibly loyal and they believe all of what they are told. And it kind of sheds light not just on a little bit more of Zuko's dynamic, but how this entire country can be fooled, this entire nation can be fooled into going through with these heinous acts that they take part in. I think that even though it's brief and it's kind of subtle, I really think it provides a lot of depth there. Plus, I liked getting to see Aang have a little glimpse of a normal childhood, and he gets to stand out for being the sweet, delightful kid that he is. I just liked that one a lot. The Awakening, it was so crushing, though. This is the very opening of the season. So The Awakening, just seeing Aang wrestle with the fact that he failed at the end of season 2 and that they lost Ba Sing Se and him kind of breaking down and trying to go out on his own and everything, it was so devastating. I felt so bad for him. So I also really liked the way in which you immediately see the remorse and the regret on Zuko's end, but he doesn't know how to process that. I think that there's just a couple of clips of him and they're really heartbreaking and hard to see, but I think they did a great job of that. Western Air Temple, I just in general think that this was, this is when you're finally starting to come away from what we've been getting in the first chunk, and you're starting to see Zuko now wanting to ally with them and everything. It was just fantastic. And speaking of fantastic, we're now going to go to the top tier and then also the bottom tier, so not the ones that I like the most. I'll start with the negative so that we end on a positive. The Painted Lady, I didn't hate this episode, but following through with what I said about the Runaway, I do still feel like it's building off of a blueprint that we got previously, which was the episode in season 1 when Katara helps some individuals that are earthbenders. It felt very similar. It played out really similar. So as a result, I feel like it lacked uniqueness, and I couldn't really put it higher than this, especially because so many of the other things are quite good. So just in comparison to what else we get, if I were to compare it to like just some other episode from some other show, I might put it up higher, but comparing it to other episodes within this show, I can't. And then the beach. I really want to reiterate, I did not think that there was a lack of important moments. There certainly were important moments that saying aloud and finally coming to that realization on Zuko's end was extremely important for his character arc. I just hated this episode. I hate it. The more I think about it, because I went like through all these emotions where I hated it as I was watching it, and then I really thought through it. I'm like, maybe I don't hate it as much as I thought because important things happen. And the more time passed and the more like really good episodes we got in the latter half of this season, the more I'm like, yeah, no, I hate that episode. And I know that people love it. Apparently, I don't though. I really hate it. And again, important things are happening. People really feel it humanized the characters. I thought it made Azula's whole madness arc really predictable. I thought it was cheesy. I did not like it. Not even a little bit. I didn't like it. Like, Zuko's so... his character arc is so good. And this, to me, I'm like, why did that realization have to happen in this setting? I didn't like it. So, it's totally fine if you disagree. I went on for, I don't know how long, in the batch review, spending so much time going through this. And again, I recognize some people really feel like it humanized the characters. I personally don't find throwing characters that are normally cool into cringe moments to be humanizing. I think it is just kind of annoying. I mean, imagine Silco from Arcane just like slipping on a banana peel or something and being like, whoa, whoa, whoa. And you'd be like, wow, I feel like Silco is really humanized. No. I'm saying it's fine if you feel differently. That's just not, I don't feel it work. That doesn't work for me. Just, and I get also they're playing off of the animated show trope of the like random, like there's the Sailor Moon beach episode too. I get it. I completely respect what they went for, and I'm always down for shows to take artistic chances, which they absolutely did with the beach. But in season 2, the Tales of Ba Sing Se is an example of them taking a chance that I loved. I loved the artistry of that, and it really hit for me. And in this instance, it didn't work at all. And I think that is sometimes the risk you run when you take these chances. But it's just personal taste. I'm not saying at all that I think it's objectively bad. I just really didn't like it. But I'm glad that so many of you do. Let's go back to the top and talk about positive things. So the Puppet Master, I really considered putting this lower and putting something from the second tier in place of this. But this really stood out as one of the darkest moments of the entire series. I think the only thing comparable, really, aside from just the whole general idea of what the Fire Nation does, but the reveals with Ba Sing Se was probably the only thing that is even close to the level of darkness that you get with this episode. It really shows the concept of violence begets violence, and just how much you break a person when you subject them to the horrors that this woman experienced. And sort of this is a cliche, cheesy way to put it, but it's like a cautionary tale for Katara. It shows her, if she gives in to these more resentful, hateful feelings that she experiences sometimes, that this is potentially what awaits her. And then you have the physicality of that represented through bloodbending. I just thought it was a fantastic episode. I really, really enjoyed this one. It really took me by surprise. And on that note, the Southern Raiders. Speaking of Katara, this was, I thought, a fantastic episode all around. Just the kind of conclusion to this aspect of Katara's life, her arc with her mother and wanting to have justice for what was done to her. It was so good. It was emotional. It was heavy. And I do like, similar to what I said about the Boiling Rock, I really liked the sort of bonding aspect you get between her and Zuko in this episode. And on that note, the last one for today would be the Firebending Masters. This was visually a masterpiece. It was funny. It was so moving with having Aang and Zuko have to work together. I feel like it progressed their you can almost say their powers, like their bending abilities, but there was so much emotional stakes as well. And it was such a turning point in not just their individual arcs, but their arcs together. So good, so good. And it was so beautiful, and getting those tidbits about the lore and the dragons, and then hearing that Iroh helped them. It was just perfect. It was a great episode. That's it for a tier ranking of season 3's episodes. Again, I would love to know, where do you find you align with me the most, and then where do you align with me the least? I have really enjoyed getting to see your thoughts on this as I've made my way through the show, and I can't wait to make more Avatar themed content now that I have watched all of it. But anyway, thanks so much. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you later. Bye.